Good morning, friends, wherever you are. Welcome to today's Cichlids and Coffee live stream. I will be your host for the next hour. Hope you're having a cup of coffee wherever you are, or whatever your favorite beverage is. And of course, that might be determined by what time it is where you are. Great cup of coffee in a cup that I got from the wonder of Cichlids. I'm not sure if they're even around anymore. Yeah, little fishy cup. So, how are you all doing? I see some of you are chatting on the chat here. You see, who do we have? Angelo's in the house. We have looks like Michael's here. A bubble off. Water changes on 125 while watching. That's great. I hear that from a lot of folks that they do their maintenance during the live stream. That's a good thing. Good morning to all of you here. Paul, hello, Paul. And Waynard is in the house. Hello, Waynard. Good to see you. Let's see here. Hey, Whip. Good to see you, Whip. Cat Sailor's in the house. Peas and Haps forever. Great folks. And very, very good. All right. Brian Park in the house. Adam Frankel. Hey, Adam. Good to see you there, buddy. All right. So today I've got a few things for you. I've got an update, of course, like I normally do, but I also want to talk to you about some moves I made in the area of power and power backup. I've been talking with you folks for quite some time about getting something that could really back up the fish room in the event of an outage. And this, not that long ago, a few weeks ago, we had a cold snap that was like, near zero. And in some cases, it looked like it was going to dip below zero, but it stayed down there in the low teens and zero. And it went on for a while. I mean, we had snow all around the property, all around the street. And we ended up, just kind of holding up, and not going anywhere. We have a steep climb that leads up to our house. And so if you go on that and it hasn't been plowed and you don't have the right tires, you're going for a slide. And where you're going to get dumped out on is on a main road. And so that's if you go through that, you'll go down into a deep ditch. So there's no, it's not worth risking it. So at any rate, it was very, very, very cold. And my concern was that if we did lose power during that time period, because this is a garage and I do have insulation on the door, I have put some weather stripping on the access door, on the regular access door, but also the roll-up door has that thick foam that you can buy at a hardware store. So I did that job. I insulated that, and but still, it can get pretty cold in here. I think I've got the floor, right? I got a concrete floor, and I've got essentially 3 walls without traditional insulation. I believe the ceiling is insulated because there's a bedroom built above the garage, right? So if we had lost power for a long time, and by the way, Whip, thank you for that on the AV, and to Michael and everyone else who's commenting, price tag on the AV, that really helps. So what my concern was that if we lose power during that cold snap, I have no way of heating the tanks. Now I have an uninterrupted power supply, one of those power batteries, right? And it can keep pumps going. It can keep some pumps going and air pumps, things like that for a very long time. But if you include heaters into the mix, and I'm talking like 500 to 800 watt heaters on these big tanks, 150, 300 watt heaters on the 90, 55, and 100 watt heaters on the 55. I mean, that's a lot of draw. That's a lot of wattage. And so that would run that USB down real quick. Fortunately, right? Knock on wood, thank God, we didn't have a power outage during that severe storm, but it was a wake-up call. It was a wake-up call. So I started doing research, and there's a lot of options out there for power outages. From smaller, compact, quieter units called inverters, you have larger battery pack units that use solar. There's a lot of options out there, and the price point is pretty broad. I did have quotes on units that would be, on like permanent units that are like half the size of a 2-ton heating and air conditioning unit that would just sit alongside the house and operate off gas and would sense an outage and then kick in immediately. In an ideal world, that would be great. That would be the way to go. But you're coming in at about $10,000. I mean, really, for a house, 3,000 square foot, 2-floor house, you're coming in at about 10 grand to run the whole house on that kind of a unit. The big advantage is, of course, if you're 3 hours away visiting one of Tennessee's waterfalls or something, and everything goes out, you're no worries. It just there's a little bleep. Some people say there's not even a bleep. It just instant, right? So that would have been the premier. That would have been the Maserati, the Lamborghini way to go, right? And I would have preferred that, having a Lamborghini Maserati taste. That I have the Maserati taste, but I have the I've got the Volkswagen budget. So I decided to go ahead and go with a more traditional generator, and I'll show it to you here in a minute. I mean, it's not even unboxed yet. It was just delivered yesterday, and I'll show it to you. I'm going to be bringing it online. I'm having an electrician come in on Monday. He's going to look at the panels, and he's going to put a 50 amp bypass, a plug, so I can plug the generator right into one plug, just one plug through a 50 amp cable, and it'll run pretty much everything. I mean, assuming we're not doing a lot of electric cooking, and we got the heaters and the AC. I mean, the AC in particular, maybe on low, and we're not running the washer, dryer. You'll see in the video. It's a powerful unit, so it'll do a good job. Hey, Zen Ginger in the house, Alien Aquatics, some of my wonderful moderators. Good to see you, my friends. And while I'm thinking about it, let's go ahead and do a shout out to a few folks real quick. I call this the bill paying portion. A big shout out to the moderators. A big shout out to Aquarium Co-op, has been helping me out a lot. You'll hear more about that in a little bit. And also, of course, to all of you who are out there and subscribe and super chat and are members of the Garage Gang, the Patreon members, you are very appreciated. You've been you actually you're probably not you wouldn't be necessarily aware of this, but you are a big part of why I'm able to do these projects, my Patreon members. And it's not, I mean, you can be a Patreon for as little as $3 a month. Some of you, those of you with stars by your name, you know who you are. You're doing a lot more than that, and you are very, very appreciated. But you can be a Patreon for about $3 a month. The details are in the description of the video, and it really helps. It adds up, and just helps me to keep getting these projects going. So big shout out to my Patreons and to the day-to-day subscribers and viewers, because those are the ones that create the probably the biggest impact. Also, a big shout out to my friend Josh, who is going to be joining me. Josh will be showing up on Friday. at the Ohio Cichlid Association. I'm going to be speaking at the Ohio Cichlid Association on Friday evening. So if you're in the Cleveland area, and I'm going to be stopping by the Ohio Fish Rescue. So I'll probably be getting some footage from the from Big Rich and the team over at the Ohio Fish Rescue, and that'll be a lot of fun too. So looking forward to that. And but a big shout out to Josh. Hopefully I'll see you on Friday night. And what else? Let's see here. If you're looking for some swag, coffee cups, hoodies, what have you, go over to the Teespring store. And if you use Amazon, and who doesn't use Amazon these days, right? If you use Amazon, visit my Amazon store and use that link, that Amazon link. And what that'll do is everything you buy on Amazon will give a little credit to the channel. So it's kind of cool. And I think it operates for 48 hours. So if you access Amazon using that link, for 48 hours, anything you buy on Amazon gives a little bump to the channel. And it doesn't cost you anything. It doesn't change your prices or anything like that. So it's just a great, simple way to support the channel. I know that some of you are doing that. And it's just very, very cool. All right. So let's go ahead and do the official start here. All right, it's official now. So what have we got here? Let's see. I'm trying to take a look at the chat. So I'm like a chameleon. I'm controlling the stream with my left eye, and I'm looking at the chat with my right eye. So by the pretty part chameleon. So as I mentioned, I have a video for you, and I'm going to go ahead and play a special video for you, which will then get released as a standalone video. Because I know a lot of folks out there, they look at a video thumbnail and they look at 1 hour and they go, no, I can't commit an hour. They'll commit 20 minutes, they'll commit 10 minutes. And I get it. We're kind of living in a sort of a TikTok world these days. But so I'll release the video as a separate standalone video. And I'll probably have some more content for you during the week. I'm talking to Darius over at Northfin. Darius at Northfin. And we're going to be doing another interview and update on what's going on with Northfin. And he just sent me a box of goodies. Can you believe this? Look at this. I'll tell you what. Send me an email at ben.o.cichlid. ben.o.cichlid at Gmail. Tell me what kind of fish you have, and I'll see if I've got some of this food that matches what you have, and I'll send you some out. I'll send you some samples. This Northfin is quality stuff. I've got betta bits. I've got krill. I've got naturally some cichlid food. So send me an email, ben.o.cichlid. I'll get you some of these samples. I mean, the guy this came out of nowhere, and I'm going to be taking a big bag of them with me to Ohio, and probably just throw a bunch of them into the crowd. There's supposed to be like 40 people there, so I'll toss some of these packets there. So, but if you want some, send me an email. Tell me what kind of fish you have, and if I've got food that matches, I'll send some to you. And if I don't, maybe I've got some of that Sarah. I've got Sarah samples too. I mean, you know me, I'm kind of a Sarah, North Fin, and Extreme kind of guy, right? I mean, those are the three primary foods that I use, and I mix them up a lot. I've got greens and proteins and bug bites and black worms and all kinds of stuff that I mix up and I feed the fish. The African cichlids, of course, they also get frozen krill, and the other fish get bloodworms, frozen bloodworms. So that's sort of like what makes up the diet of my fish room. The topic in Ohio is going to be surviving setbacks and how to prevent them. Now, last week's live stream, if you were at last week's live stream, you know that that was kind of a rehearsal. Last week's live stream was a bit of a dry run, a dress rehearsal for the talk in Ohio. I'm going to be speaking for, I think, 45 minutes or so, roughly. And it's going to be on the topic of bouncing back from setbacks. Who hasn't had setbacks, right? I've certainly had them. We've all had them in the hobby. And some of us have had to come back from devastating setbacks, major setbacks. I've had people contact me who've told me they lost all their stock to a colomaris outbreak, things like that, and they get back on the horse, and but some people they quit. But I'm going to be emphasizing steps to take that in hindsight, which is always 2020, steps to take to prevent those kinds of disasters that are so notorious and are common, that knock people completely out of the hobby. So that'll be like the emphasis of the talk, the talk over in Ohio. Zen Ginger, love the Bug Pro. Well, Zen, send me an email. You're anybody is eligible. Even my moderators can send me an email if you'd like some. By the way, I don't see GP is. Oh, GP, you are here. Good. I wasn't sure if you were going to be around. GP is traveling around the country helping his the company he works for, and he wasn't sure he was going to make it today. But good to see you there, buddy. All right, so let's go ahead and spin up this this special video I have for you, and I think you'll like it. Certainly comment during the video, and we'll talk about the topics in the video after the video, and of course we can also talk during the video, and then I'll get into answering your questions off the chat. And if I missed a super chat, I'm sorry, I wasn't staring as intently maybe at the chat as I should have. But those of you not familiar, super chats are a way to throw a little money at the dancer. So that's a horrible analogy. All right, let's go ahead and take a look at this. Let's take a look at this video, and you tell me what you think. Here we go. Some of the goals for 2024 included providing backup power to the fish room, and I looked at a whole variety of options. As you know, I have a uninterrupted power supply that's basically a giant battery that can run things for a short while. But if you get one of those long blackouts, let's say a power line goes down or there's a big storm, and power can be out for between 6 and 10 hours or more, then I'd be into a real problem. Now keep in mind, these fish often are shipped overnight or over the course of several days. They can survive. They can survive as long as they don't have a massive temperature change. They can survive for probably a day or two, and they would be okay. You don't want to risk a couple things. One, a lack of water movement, creating a big drop in oxygen. And in the case of my garage, if we didn't have any home heating or anything because of the blackout, and it was really cold outside, the temperatures could drop a lot in the aquarium. So this last winter, especially the a week or two of freezing temperatures that we had, where I was basically had my fingers crossed that we didn't lose power, it just moved me into action. So I'll show you what I picked up, and I'll also talk with you about a couple other 2024 projects that are getting underway, and you're going to see sort of unveiling over the next 3 or 4 months as the year progresses. A lot of these projects, by the way, are made possible by you and you're subscribing, you're participating in super chatting during the live streams, in Patreon participation, right? The Garage Gang Patreon members. You're making a lot of this possible. So a big shout out to you, and also a big shout out to my friends at the Aquarium Co-op that are helping a lot, and also to Josh, who's going to be helping me with some fish that we'll be talking more about in a minute. So let's just go ahead and get right into it. This is the backup power unit that was delivered yesterday, actually, and it's on its side. I'm going to be unpackaging it. It might be a 2-person job. We'll see. It is the Duramax 12,000 unit. They call it a hybrid. I don't know what that means, but it's a XP 12,000 EH. And the reason I wanted this unit, or picked up this unit, is because of the high wattage. It will actually crank out 9,500 watts. It can be connected to a 50 amp. So I'm going to put a transfer of 50 amp right directly to the side of the house, and just be able to just plug it in, and I can run it on I can run the unit on propane. So I'm not going to have to mess with keeping gas stabilized and having gas foul up the carburetor. I'm just going to run it off of a propane. This unit was about $1,000 and about $1,100 actually, delivered to the house. That includes shipping. I got it on eBay, and I'll be picking up probably a 60 pound propane tank that stands fairly tall, but we'll run it for a good amount of time. So 12,000 peak watts, 9,500 running watts. Assuming we're not running major appliances, it'll run the house, and I'll be able to run the AC, the heat, and maybe just not run the washer, dryer, and dishwasher and all that stuff, right? But this will run the whole house. So once I get it set up, I'll go ahead and share it with you. It's these units can be loud. I'm probably going to end up creating an enclosure, a ventilated enclosure for it that is insulated to some degree, because my neighbors are not too far away, and they can be over 70 decibels, so they can be pretty loud. But hopefully it's not for very long duration. Initially, in a power outage, I would run this uninterrupted power supply right here, and Danair, I think it's made by a company called Danair, and I would run it, and it would keep the air pumps and things running for a few hours. But if the power outage would go beyond that, I would then have to switch over to the bigger unit. A big shout out to my friends over at the Aquarium Co-op, Zenzo and Corey and the gang over there. They're sending over some more plants. So this, what I call my planted aquarium, it has some nice healthy crypts and jungle val and anubias and things of that nature. I'm going to be filling in some areas like right in here. You see a few bald spots here. Now you see sand, but underneath that sand there's what they call a substrate that is supposedly for plants. A lot of this stuff here, the substrate you see right there, which is a plant-specific substrate, is actually just under the surface of this sand. So at any rate, I'm going to be dropping some more plants into there, some stem plants. So filling it in a little bit, making it a little bit greener. The plants that are in there now are looking pretty good. They're fairly well established. All my tanks are in need of a little cleaning. I'll probably do a little vacuuming on this tank, and the plants, of course, they do a lot of the work absorbing ammonia, keeping the nitrate levels down. But the fish, you can see, are doing great. Little albino acaras and lemons and rasboras, rummy nose, a few cory cats, a lot of hornwort. Hornwort drifts all over. I like it more on the right side of the tank, but it's all right there for now. As you know, if you saw my last video, eventually these albino acaras are going to be moving into the 90 gallon right here. So this will be their home. Now I'm thinking about moving, doing it in stages. The most aggressive fish in this tank right now are the geos, which like going after each other a lot. You can see the tail on the geo. It has definitely a little bit of damage to it. That one's the dominant one, the one that just chased him off. So I'm thinking about maybe taking the geos and the red shoulder, which is also an aggressive guy. You see him there going after the gold. They're all right on cue. So those three bigger fish, I might just move over to the 210 here. I'll show you. Drop them in here. Drop them in this tank, and just watch them. Watch them for about a month. See how they do. Or for a day if it gets real violent, right, and pull them back out. But put them in here, see how they get along with this group of fish, which do well together. I mean, the firemouth is, you know, always faces off with the Nicaragua, but nothing ever comes of it. But otherwise, this tank tends to be those silver dollars, my dither fish. But this tank tends to be overall fairly peaceful. You know, you get reluctant to mess with something that's working, but I want to move. I want to also bring in the red tear and see if it's possible for him to live here. Last time when I brought him over, there was a big dispute with the Salvini, but it was about the cave that I brought over. I brought over the big cave that at the time the red tear was living in the 55 gallon. So I'm not going to bring that cave over this time. I'm just going to bring the fish over, and that way the Salvini will not have something that they want to claim. So hopefully that will allow me to drop in the red tear, who's out from behind. He hides behind that cave all the time. Hard for me to get him on video. Sometimes if I zoom in, I can get him. But if I can bring him over to the 210. Now what that'll do is it'll free this tank up here, this 55 gallon, and then that'll be used to acclimate and to quarantine some bigger cichlids that I'm hoping to get from Josh over at Cunningham Tropicals. So if he can play nice and not be a killer, not be a tear, I'll try him one more time in the 210, but bring him over at the same time that I bring over the big geos and the more aggressive red shoulder. So hopefully that'll create enough confusion so that red tear can get kind of settled in and there isn't a battle royale. This tank is available for quarantine, so I'll probably quarantine some of the fish in here. I have noticed that since there have been no fish in quarantine in this little 29 gallon, I've gotten this big explosion of these baby pagoda snails. Not sure if you can see them on the glass, but there's a whole bunch of them. See them right up here at the edge of the water? Those are all baby pagoda snails. That's these kind of snails down here, these big, long, pointed snails, which are my favorite snail, actually. They're just beautiful. And so maybe, I'm thinking the fish maybe might have been eating they might have been eating the offspring, which is why I wasn't getting more babies. If I have some of those stem plants that the aquarium co-op is sending over left over, Some of them are left over. I'll put them in here. I'll put them in this tank. Fill this in a little bit. This has a plant substrate underneath this sand cap. This is like my closest thing to a dirted tank. It has fluval plant substrate underneath this particular sand substrate. So you would think plants would do really well here, and for some reason stem plants have not done really well. The hornwort seems to love it, but everything else tends to struggle a little bit. So I'll try some more stem plants in here and see what happens. A little hospital tank that's ready, has a little bit of hornwort in it. And here's the other 29-gallon, which is currently being used to grow out several fish, including my eel. You can see him there hanging out in the hornwort. He loves hanging out up here in the hornwort. Can you make him out? He's so cute. And then I've got these beautiful blue dwarf rainbows, and they're just thriving in here. They just love it in here. So these rainbows, when I pull the right around the time when I pull the albino Acaras out of that 55 and move them into the 90, I'll go ahead and transfer these rainbows over to that planted tank. I think they'll do well in there. Give them a little more room to swim around. But I just love the blue body and the red fringe that they have. And they don't get a lot bigger than this. They get a little bigger. You know, they'll put on another maybe, I don't know, an inch maybe, max. But they are a dwarf rainbow. They don't get large like the larger, more common rainbow fish. But they are a very pretty fish. And of course I've got just a ton of baby plecos, and I think I've got another batch about to come out because the dad has been in that cave behind that driftwood, just fanning forever. So he's got more eggs in there for sure. A lot of hornwort in here as well. So acquiring discus fish is still on the table, and this is the tank that is slotted for it. And I'm hoping that this will eventually become a discus tank, but I do have to make some fish moves first and see how those work out and gradually transition this tank into being a discus tank. Throw some live plants in it. You know, I've got the UV unit running right here, and doing a good job. Water clarity is good, water quality is good. So, and the fish are very healthy in this tank. It's a very mature tank. I think discus will do great in it. Now the other option I'm considering is, this is a 60-gallon acrylic tank that is currently just sitting here on its side. It was originally slotted to be a sump, but I didn't want to have to cut the side out on the 300-gallon stand. So here it sits unused, 60-gallon acrylic from my friends over at Glass Cages. So I'm thinking of opening up this space. So that would mean relocating this tank, this little 5-gallon, and this 20-gallon rimless, putting them somewhere else, and using this area here, the center area, for that 60-gallon. So that would fill in this entire area right here. So that could be a discus tank. That could be, I'm not sure what I'm gonna put in it right now, but it just opens up another possibility of bringing new fish into the fish room. One other project that I'm working on has to do with, on the topic of sumps, has to do with sumps. I'll show it to you. These fish have put on more size over the last 6 months. And if I bring in those geos and add the red tear, it's just gonna increase the bio load. So I was thinking it might be time to consider a bigger sump to increase just to increase the amount of sponge and the amount of water volume that would be going on with this tank. I currently, here, I'll show you down here. This is a 29 gallon. This is a 29 gallon Sump tank. It's doing an okay job. Has a Cichlids 9500, pumping a lot of water. Little Hydra heater down in there. It has some of those sponges, those tall sponges from my friends over at Swiss Tropicals. A couple socks, a couple little socks that the water pours into. So I'm thinking of swapping this out with a 40 gallon. So I'll probably go over to Glass Cages and talk with Joe about picking up a 40 gallon tank and not even bother putting in baffles. You see, I put those little, I cemented in those baffles. I'm not even going to put baffles. I'll just use just the straight sponges like I did with this one. And certainly add that sponge to the new Sump just to bring over the beneficial bacteria, but turn it into a 40 gallon so I have a lot more water volume, more dilution. So this will be swapped out, this 29 will be swapped out. And those are some of the upcoming projects over the next month or so that I'll be working on. So I'll have my hands full. It'll be a lot of fun, and it'll give these guys up here just a lot better quality. They're already in great quality water, but it'll just give them even better quality. So there you have it. That's what's going on here in the fish room currently as 2024 evolves. It's going to be a great year with a lot of good stuff going on, and the room will get better and better. I'm about to clear out some of the storage bins that I have behind me are going to get cleaned out to make more room. I'm not sure if I'll be pushing outward. I also need, of course, to create the space for that 60 gallon acrylic. So it's moving along. It's moving along. The key in all of it is patience. Just do it one step at a time. Do it right, and this is going to be just a great year for the fish room. And thank you so much for coming along with me. All right, thanks for tuning in, and I will see you on Saturday. There you go. So that's the plan. And to address a couple of the questions that came up during the while that video was playing, there is going to be a special kind of plate put onto the circuit board, which will make it impossible to run the generator while having the main power lines still, having that circuit open. And so you install a plate that blocks that shifts and can only allow one of the choices to be on at one time, either the generator or the main power line, right, coming in from the outside. If you have the power line circuit open and you're running a generator, you could run electricity back down the power line, and that line worker, that fellow out there or gal who's working on the power line trying to get it fixed is going to get a nice shock. So you really don't want to do that. So you install a special plate that only allows you to run either the receptacle, the 50 amp plug, or power coming from the outside. You cannot run both at the same time. It's impossible. So that will be installed as part of the process. Nothing will be plugged in until that's installed. Also, one of you commented on the countertop. Yes, the countertop to support a 60 gallon is going to be reinforced with a wooden frame. Underneath, there's going to be some pillars and a frame that's going to go under the countertop. Otherwise, that countertop would sway and probably crack and collapse. I have some support under it right now for just the 20 gallon rimless, but it's not designed to hold tremendous amounts of weight over long periods of time. So I am going to be buying some, some 2x4s or some 4x4s and just creating some structure under it. I mean, the other option would be, of course, to modify that countertop and and perhaps even cut it out altogether and just make that section against the wall an actual aquarium stand. So that's another thing that I'm kind of rolling around in my head. So my son-in-law here in Nashville has a bunch of equipment and is learning more and more about woodworking, and he's actually built some pretty nice cabinets already. And I may tap him for a favor. I'll call it the grandpa babysitting fee, which he gets a great deal. We take care of the kids. I have the afternoon shift. My wife has the morning shift, and so they've got a great deal. They've got a real good deal. So I will not hesitate to ask them for a favor. So let's take up some of your questions and see what you have to say about about what you heard in the video, and also any questions in general. Let's go ahead and take a look. There's the chat. There's the 15 minutes of fame. Let me scroll the chat here and see if I've missed some questions or comments. If you have something specific you'd like to ask me, go ahead and ask me now. Let me move the chat and expand it so these old eyes can see it. Hold on. All right. Let's see here. So it sounds like some of you have the unit I picked up. I mean, I wanted a unit that had at least dual fuel. They have some tri-fuel units now, generators that can actually you could just do a quick connect to your gas line. In my case, I would have to run a very long hose because of where my gas is available, but you can run a quick connect and just run off of the your home gas unit that's coming in. That's a real good option. That's a clean burning option. The propane, I decided to go with the propane. I didn't want to mess with running long gas lines, but I'm avoiding gas only because I don't want to have to get into a lot of carburetor cleaning. I don't want to also be storing gas over long periods of time, which then requires stabilizers. You can't just let gas sit there forever. So, the propane doesn't require any special treatment when it's in its tank. So I'll get a unit that can be refilled. They usually stand, I'm thinking of one that it's not massive, but it will be hefty. And when I do need to get it refilled, it's going to be a little bit of a task, but it'll be worth it. It'll be worth it. I think it'll run for a very long time. You do get more wattage with gas than you do with propane. I understand that. And I think you do run a little bit longer. Gas is really easy. You just use the funnel, put it in the top, close it, and you're good to go. I'm also going to be perhaps tapping my son-in-law for some help on creating an enclosure that is insulated. They're, just to give you a frame of reference, they're about as loud as a lawnmower. 70 some odd decibels is about like a lawnmower. A lawnmower can be closer to 79. Gas-powered lawnmower, these are about 72 decibels. Give you a frame of reference. A rock concert's about 120 decibels. So they can be loud. So if I can put it in something that would give it have enough ventilation and openings so it can breathe, right? You can't have the motor really covered up. You can't have the exhaust covered up. So it has to have some openings, and I want it to be under weather protection so it can run while it's raining without any problem. So something that, opens up on the sides, maybe has maybe a door on the top that can work at an angle, but have insulation, sound insulation, that could reduce the decibels a bit. I mean, can you imagine? I mean, having a neighbor running a lawnmower for 10 hours, that would become a little bit annoying. So just things I'm rolling around, ideas I'm picking up as I watch videos on YouTube. And I was like this close to picking one up from Harbor Freight. They have one called a Predator. But for some reason, I couldn't see a 50 amp outlet on it. And even though I looked, it looked like it had a 42 amp or a 30 amp. And so, but they did have the remote start, which is nice. They also had the CO2 sensor, which will pick up dangerous CO2 levels and shut the unit off. Those are important. I'm not going to be running my unit inside the garage. I'll be running it, 10, 15 feet from the house. They recommend 20. I don't know if I can go 20 feet and still be inside my property line, but at any rate, a lot of things to consider. Having a backup generator is new to me. Any tips that you folks have, go ahead and put them in the comments or in the chat. It'll be appreciated. Natural gas is an option for some of these units that are tri-fuel. Mine is dual fuel. It uses propane or gas or gasoline. So let's see here. Stephanie wants to know if I keep my hospital tanks running. Yes, in my case I do. I have several of them that I just keep running all the time. I usually will keep a pleco in there and some snails. I just keep them running and so I can drop a fish in immediately if I have to. Doesn't mean you can't whip one up. I mean, in my case, I have some Expertmatic internal filter sponges that are tucked into the back of my hang-on back filters. So they're loaded with beneficial bacteria. I have a 40-gallon tote laying over here on the floor next to me. If there was an emergency, if you had an emergency, you could use a Rubbermaid 40-gallon tote. Let's say you had a leak in an aquarium and you had to evacuate all the fish, right? Or an outbreak of something and you don't have a quarantine tank. You can get a tote, dump some of the water from the aquarium, put some temperature match treated water into it. It'll be just like a water change. And then pull some of that media that's been sitting inside one of your filters. Put it into a filter, drop it into the tote, bring the heater over, from the existing aquarium if you have to do a whole new tank, or fire up a new heater. Now, remember when you move heaters, it's always a good idea, unplug them for 15 minutes and then pull them out. When you put them into the new tank, let them sit in the new tank for 15 minutes and then plug them in. Let them sort of match up or acclimate. Just a tip on heaters. But yeah, you can bring a heater and some media over and you'll have an instant hospital tank. So you don't need to have them running. I just happen to have it that way. Some people ask, do I treat or medicate the fish during quarantine? And the answer is no. I observe them closely for 30 days or so, and if I don't see anything, I don't treat. Some people do, some people don't. I mean, that's your call if you want to treat. Certainly if you're importing fish from overseas, things like that, yeah, you want to do some parasite. You want to treat them for parasites. You want to clean them out, maybe quarantine for a little bit longer than 30 days. I'm buying from local buyers, trusted buyers, 30-day quarantine with close observation and not bringing the fish in until they're aggressively attacking their food, showing good color, don't show any fin damage, acting right. and then I bring them in. So I don't medicate during quarantine. Price tag Aquatics. Hey Ben, Whips and I are inquiring more info. The use of UV light before, during, and after during medication. I have a hap with a hole in the head. Well, I did it all. I did it all in stages, and UV. I think with some medications, they do suggest you turn off. You remove all chemical filtration, and you shut off UV because it may actually neutralize the medication. So I did it. I treated a hole in the head in stages. I did big water changes. I did medication. I used some Paracleanse, I believe I used, and with no charcoal, nothing, no chemical filtration at all. Right. Then I dumped some charcoal in the filter for 30 days to take out any residual medication, and then I started up the UV. So each of it was done in separate stages. The hole in the head is I can say with confidence, I'm looking right at the forehead of one of my geos. It is gone. It is gone. Even some of that heavy scarring has really started to heal up. That was above the right eye of one of them. The two geos were the ones that were showing it the most. There's no sign of hole in the head. The AC Heckel had a little bit of it. It's all gone. The rest of the fish never showed any signs. So I would run it. I would run it as a standalone. I wouldn't necessarily be medicating. I do it in phases. I mean, I can only tell you from firsthand experience what worked for me, and what worked for me was some big water changes, and then I did the medication, and then I added charcoal to remove residual medication, and then UV, and I'm still doing. Now I'm back to 25% water changes, and I've never put charcoal or chemical filtration back into that tank. Maybe I'd add something if I bring in discus. Maybe I'd add something, but I think some of those, like some of the products out there, like the Boyd Industry and the Seachem products, the resin products, I think are good for water clarity. And you have to be really extra careful with discus. You want to keep that water perfect. Also with discus, I would probably run the UV 24/7. Right now I run the UV on the same timer that the lights are on. So the lights come on at about 8 a.m. They stay on till about 11. And then they come back on at 5 or 6, and they stay on until about 9 or 10. So the UV runs during those same time periods. So it's not running all the time. I just want to give the UV light a little more life. But if I put discus in there, I'd probably run the UV all the time and just swap out the light every 4 or 5 months, maybe every 6 months. Put a UV light in there, right? Because they do run out of juice. They do burn out on you. Somebody asking, let me see, what is that? MES, MES, is asking, do you weekly or bi-weekly salt your aquariums? I don't use salt. Oh, by the way, just another comment on that hole in the head. I was using some salt with the water changes. I was using 1 tablespoon of dissolved salt for every 5 gallons. 1 tablespoon of dissolved aquarium salt for every 5 gallons when I was treating a hole in the head, and I do a water change. Just so you know. Now keep in mind, when you top off, salt doesn't evaporate. So if you're going to replenish salt for a top off, you don't need to replenish salt when you top off. When you do a water change, I would do a proportionate amount. So if I do 45 gallons, half the water, 50% water change on the 90 gallon, I would do a 1 tablespoon per 5 gallons for 45 gallons. Okay. So just as a rule of thumb. So that is aquarium salt. I was using Fritz A+ aquarium salt, which I was getting from the aquarium co-op. Now, otherwise, I don't salt the aquariums. I'm not using salt. I do use what is called Malawi lake salt, which isn't salt. It's not aquarium salt. It is it's trace minerals, and I use it for the African cichlids. And Fritz makes a product, and so does Seachem. Both of them are good. Both of them match the trace mineral content of Lake Malawi. I do add that with water changes. All right. So that's what I use on under. But I did use aquarium salt to help with the healing of the scars. Now, maybe I can show you. Hold on one second. Let's do this. Let's put on the fish cam. Hold on. So let me show you the forehead of the geos if they'll come to the front of the tank. It's going to be a little bit tilted, but that's normal. Hold on one second. You can see the forehead on that geo. You see any scarring, anything at all on him? He was pretty pockmarked from hole in the head. And Casey Heckle, I had a little bit of marking, but that's all gone. It was never really a big thing with him. You can see the geos are not showing really any residual effects. There's that red shoulders could be going out. You know, I just saw the electric blue Cara going after one of the fish there. That's interesting. Maybe the electric blue Carals will go over to the 210. You can see the geos look pretty good. There's not anything really that I can say is indicative of hole in the head. One little mark above one eye on one of them, and that's about it. So that issue, I think, is behind me. And yeah, big water changes with salt added. And then I went into medication. The Paracleanse, I think, is what I used. And then I added then some charcoal to remove the residual meds, and then the adding of the UV, and it kind of knocked it out. All right, let me get back into my seat. get you off that fish cam. All right. I hope that answered that question. One of those nice victories, you know, when fish become ill, they get sick or something. It's so nice to have a victory. Very often you treat it, you do what you think, you know, you do what you can, and then you end up losing the fish anyway, and it just feels terrible. But it was great to actually be able to turn the corner and get that handled. And it had to be handled completely before I would ever consider moving the geos to the 210, because as some of you know, Oscars are notorious for hole in the head. And so I didn't want to risk bringing over hole in the head to the 210, because I mean, I've heard horror stories on the kind of hole in the head disease that Oscars can get, where you could, you know, just very deep pits that are just horrible. All right, let's see here. And some fish do seem to be more predisposed to it. I haven't heard it that much with African cichlids. I have heard of it, but not that much. But you hear of it more with with Oscars. Seems to be the one I hear the most of with hole in the head disease, and you hear of it with discus. I hear discus can be prone to hole in the head. So, you know, you buy a discus, and you know, you pay $100 for it, and you 3 months later it's got a hole in the head. I mean, that's devastating. All right, so let's see. Any more questions? Angelo says, I have a yellow lab ready to come out of hospital tank. Got some tail rot and fungus. So happy. Yeah, it's awesome, right? When you have those victories, when you actually like save the fish, you know, it's like it's just cool when that happens. And it's unfortunately doesn't happen as often as we would like it to, but when it does happen, it's great. Hagen Hill design, got to go back. Lunch break is over. Hey, thanks for stopping by. I appreciate it. Mini Mac, patience isn't my strong suit. Well, you know, this hobby is so much of it is patience, right? I mean, so much of it, whether you're growing out fish or treating a disease or bringing a tank, you know, cycling a tank, a lot of it is time intensive. And I'll tell you, you've heard me say this before, the biggest catastrophes I've had has been with patients, where I've been impatient, and then had it just had to create a disaster, right? That's how I introduced Colomaris into a tank. So you know that story, right? So thank you, Salient Aquatics, for reminding me. Somebody pointed out that geos in the wild will eat things that fall into their habitat, right? And that can include fruits and things of that nature. I didn't necessarily want to cut up fruits and drop them into the aquarium. I tried some berries. I tried a few things. It just made a mess. So I ended up going with the Vitachem. And I think maybe about midway through that hole in the head treatment, I started using Vitachem. And again, a shout out to Aquarium Co-op, who's been sending me Vitachem. And now whenever I do a water change, I'll go ahead and treat. It's 1 teaspoon for every 50 gallons. And the stuff isn't cheap. but I go ahead and I treat with Vitachem. So it just adds nutrients and minerals to the water that the fish can, they pick up, right through their body, right? That's how they get their nutrients, their minerals. And so between the remineralization of the water with the water change and the vitamins, that osmosis it just really gives them a nutrition boost. And that may have also contributed, right? So you've got all these different steps, but it worked. It worked, right? And I've just heard a lot of stories of people saying, I treated a hole in the head and my fish died anyway. So, yeah, all these different factors: salt, Vitachem, water changes, some antibiotics, parasite treatment, which I think hole in the head is a parasite. There's different theories on it, but one of them is that it's a parasite. So there you go. But yeah, thank you for reminding me of that. Salient Aquatics. Greetings to you. Greetings to you, Kenneth D. I've heard of that too. MIDI Mac. Somebody even said hydrogen. Yeah, someone suggested hydrogen peroxide with a Q-tip right into the sores. I did consider that. It was on the list of things that I might have tried had I not gotten results the other way. All right. So it looks like you've had an animated conversation among each other, and that's always great. Like to see that. I want to thank my moderators for keeping this live stream, for keeping it family friendly. And thank you, Angelo. I will put that $9.99 into my electrician fund. I think that's going to end up costing me between $200 to $400. I'm estimating to get the electrical work done so that I have that the box actually installed completely correctly, and that safety plate. So I'll put that into my electrical fund. Thank you for that. Thank you for that super chat. So thank you to my moderators for doing a great job. Thank you to all of you who gave the video, gave today's live stream a thumbs up, and all of you who are subscribed. And also, again, a big shout out to my Patreon supporters. You are very appreciated. Be sure to check out Patreon, and underneath the video, you can see the how to become a monthly Patreon supporter. As I've said many times, you help in more ways than you know, my friends. There will be no live stream this coming week. I will be in Ohio speaking on Friday night and then flying back Saturday. So no live stream next week. I'll put an announcement on Facebook and at the YouTube community page, but no live stream next week. I'll try to get some content out during the week, and we will go from there. And let's see if there's anything else that I forget. Anything else? That's it. Okay, then there you go. Then thank you, my friends, for turning up. You are the best. You rock. I will see you in 2 weeks, or I'll see you in Ohio at the Ohio Cichlid Association on Friday. I'll be speaking. Okay, I'll see you there. Hopefully. All right. If you are going to be there, tell me in the chat. They told me to give them a head count. If anyone that was going to be showing up, tell me in the chat or in the comments if you're going to be there. That way they'll have enough refreshments for everybody. All right, my friends. I will see you again in the near future. Bye-bye.